Hello everybody, Toreno here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the first naval devblog for the new update that will be coming to War Thunder. And it is about the USS Roanoke, which is the second ship in the Worcester class of light cruisers. And so this is going to be coming to the US Naval Tech Tree at rank 5. Now this was a very late war design and wasn't actually in service until after the war. And one of its big selling points is its dual-purpose 152mm guns. So it's the 6-inch 47 caliber Mark 16 dual-purpose guns, and we do have the regular Mark 16s in-game already, but this differs in that they are, like I say, dual-purpose guns, so they're designed for surface attack and anti-air attack. And so like with the Mark 16s already in-game, it will come with a HE shell that explodes on contact, a base HE shell that will explode with a tiny bit of delay, so if it hits the fin hull of the vessel, it will hopefully penetrate that hole before exploding, causing more internal damage. It will also have access to an AP shell for against armoured targets, so it will probably struggle against enemy battleships, and then a HEVT shell for against enemy aircraft. And in addition to this, they have a greater elevation angle for attacking enemy aircraft, and a higher rate of fire. So I believe it's about 12 rounds a minute instead of 10. And these guns are placed in 6 twin turrets. So you can see we've got 3 at the fore of the vessel, at the front of the vessel, and 3 at the aft, or the back of the vessel. So decently spread out. If you receive a massive salvo at the rear of the vessel, you could lose potentially 3 of your turrets, but you'd still have your forward 3 turrets. And in addition to this, it comes with 24 3-inch guns. And again, like with the ones in-game, they will presumably have HE shells and HEVT shells, and many of them will be in dual mounts, though it looks like the ones at the rear of the vessel are in single mounts. And it should carry radar. It did carry radar in real life, so again that will help when used in the anti-air role and for detecting enemy vessels. And then moving on to the armour, and this is another plus point to the vessel, because basically it's got your standard armoured belt, which is at the waterline, that's 127mm thick. The hull has anti-fragmentation protection, so not particularly great, but, protect against splinters from HE shells. And the turrets themselves are armoured up to 165mm at the front of the turrets, while the conning tower is up to 114mm. So good for against HE shells and some AP shells, though against battleship shells and other cruisers they may struggle a little bit. However, it also has a fairly heavily armoured deck, so you've only got 25mm of armour on the deck itself, but then there's an internal armoured deck of 88mm thick. So, according to the devblog, this can withstand a 1,000 pound bomb dropped from an altitude. It doesn't say what altitude, but it must be a fairly high altitude. And it doesn't say if it's a standard 1,000 pound bomb or an armour piercing one. But even if it's just the standard 1,000 pound bombs, that's a good chunk of bombs that can be resisted. And if it is armour piercing bombs, then basically only the heaviest of bombs are going to be much of a threat against the Roanoke. Though of course they can still do a good deal of damage to the upper works. And as for the speed, we're told it's got a top speed of 33 knots, or 60 kilometers an hour, which is about the same as the USS Fargo, which is also a tier 5 light cruiser. And we're not told the crew complement, but I've seen figures from about 1,300 to a little under 1,600. So again, if you compare that to the USS Fargo, that only has about 990 odd crew, so you've got a lot more redundancy in actually losing crew, which means you will be able to last a lot longer in fights where you receive damage. And unfortunately, there is an area at the back that was to be used for launching seaplanes, but like with the Des Moines class, this seems to have been abandoned very quickly. In fact, it says it was abandoned during the construction process. It does mention helicopters and experimental UAVs being used on the ship, but I doubt we'll actually see them in the game. But basically, this seems to be a very good addition to the US Naval Tech Tree. It will do very good against enemy aircraft and other enemy cruisers, but it might struggle a little bit against enemy battleships, because of course it has 152mm guns or 6-inch guns, whereas some of the heavy cruisers have 8-inch guns. So yeah, definitely will struggle against more heavily armoured targets, but it will still do well for a light cruiser. One minor nitpick, I don't know why they didn't just add the USS Worcester, the leading ship of the class. The USS Worcester did actually see service during the Korean War and, saw combat, whereas the Roanoke, as far as I can tell, didn't see any combat, so I don't know why it was added instead of the Worcester. It would make sense to add the Worcester as a regular vessel and then maybe the Roanoke as a premium, unless the Worcester had some sort of modifications made to it that make it more suitable as an event or premium vessel, but Yeah, it seems to just be a bit of a thing that Gaijin does sometimes, just add in a sort of fairly obscure vessel from a class instead of the leading vessel. But just a minor nitpick, not a major complaint. And unfortunately, we've not been told the name of the update itself, so again, we don't have any clues on what the update's going to be about as of yet. So anyway, just a quick video for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll join me for the next one. I've been Toreno, and I'll see you next time.